about a lot of different topics, but when was the moment that you knew that you wanted to go into writing?
Um, I didn't really know what to do. I was kind of halfway through Ithaca, and I don't think I had declared my concentration yet. And my major was television radio. I don't even know if TVR is still a major.
It is.
Okay, I'm like, it hasn't been called like now it's called like streaming something else. But anyway, yeah, I was a TVR major, and I had no idea what to do. And honestly, I always loved storytelling. I never thought of myself as a good writer necessarily, but I did think of myself as a good storyteller. And my mom was a really good writer, and she encouraged me. And so honestly, I signed up for a couple screenwriting classes. And one was Elizabeth Nonas's class, who I know she just retired last year, but I signed up for her script writing class, and I remember we group wrote a Seinfeld spec, and I thought that it was so fun, and I was like, well, if this is what writing's like, sitting in a room with a bunch of people, yeah, this probably could be something for me.
That's awesome, and so glad to see, just that creative atmosphere. It can just be so influential. And speaking of creativity, as we've kind of discussed, you've been able to work on so many different productions. So, how do you continue to be creative, and what inspires you?
um, you know, when you first start out, it's like you kind of have to just get on what will have you. You don't have a lot of choice. And I obviously was super lucky that Dawson's was kind of my first TV job, I guess. But now, I'm really inspired by, I think, just stories that mean a lot to me at the moment. Um, I try to take something that I'm kind of thinking about or grappling with in my own life, and then I start to kind of manifest that through story. So that's when I'm kind of writing my own stuff. But I also I just like to be a fan of what I'm working on. American Dreams was it was my first staff job out here, and I think I loved that show more than any other person on that show, and every single person on that show loved that show. But I loved it so deeply, and it wasn't my show, but I just felt so connected to it. And I think that's really what I look for. I just look for like that connection, and I think Little Fires really, I think I really had that just at that particular moment, to be a mom and to be writing a show about motherhood. You don't always get to do that. You don't always get to write something that syncs up with a moment in your life. And so I think that felt really unique and special to me.
In one of your other interviews, I remember you mentioned that you love the dysfunctional mother daughter story. So I could definitely see that come to light when I watched the show. And as I told you earlier, I binged it in I think 2 days. I don't really remember. It was so fast, but I couldn't put it down. So speaking of that creative process, what kind of goes behind creating a show like Little Fires?
I mean, creating a show is a lot of work. I think, I mean, probably any job is a lot of work, but I think I kind of equate it to a lot like being a mother. You have to care about something like so fiercely and deeply that you put every single thing you have into it. But then you're working with a lot of people who care about it in that way. It's not like it's just yours. Like this little thing has to go out into the world and kind of have its own life. And it's this weird process of kind of creating something and then having to let it go. And I think that I think it is a lot like having a child, and it kind of takes on a life of its own. And so, yeah, it's a lot of collaboration, it's a lot of voices, and I think it's a willingness to know that all the collaboration and voices make it better and stronger, and to kind of feed off that energy, not be threatened by it. And not grip so tightly that you can't see different perspectives and how it might enrich everything.
Perspective seemed to be so important when you were writing this show. You had so many different writers involved. Again, that is something that plays out throughout the series as well. But was there a surprising moment for you? Maybe something that you didn't expect to happen that you saw when you were, behind the monitor and everything was happening?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think there were just times when I didn't expect to be so kind of overcome with emotion. I think that there were just moments that kind of hit so viscerally that you're almost caught off guard by, it's not real, that they're acting, but it feels so real in the moment. And I think it resonates in a real way, like inside of your body. And so I think those moments were surprising. And I think just the closeness and the collaboration and the diversity of voices in the writer's room, it wasn't that it was surprising because it seems so obvious, but I haven't been in a lot of rooms that have been that diverse. And I don't just mean racially diverse, I mean diverse in all ways people can be diverse. And I think I was surprised by how vital that was and how rare that environment had been, even for me to be in. And so, yeah, I think that was something that was just, I don't know, it didn't catch me off guard, but it's more like it felt very transformative. Like I felt like it changed me.
Yeah, it struck you in that way. That's such a powerful moment. Thank you for sharing that. And finally, just wanted to touch on, we are in a pandemic right now. So while everyone is binging the show, there are young people who, are not at Ithaca College right now or other schools where they have the access to continue pursuing their passions. So what advice do you have for young people who are kind of stuck at home right now to kind of keep building on those skills that they were learning in college?
Yeah, I mean, it's so different from when I was in college. Everybody has, we have iPhones and we have, you actually have the equipment and technology to shoot and write and even put up your own stuff. And so you don't necessarily have to rely on somebody else to do that for you. And I think that, I think if I had all the time in the world and I was a student, I would hone my craft, whatever that craft was. And I would, I don't think it's about where it ends up, but writing a script just to write it and letting someone see it and give you notes and seeing what it feels like to do those notes, whether you agree with them or not. I think just challenging yourself to kind of almost give yourself your own grad school where you can just keep trying to get better. It's like flexing a muscle that you want to get stronger.
That's actually an analogy that some of my professors have used, just continuing to go to the gym and work on your craft. Liz, thank you so much for joining this extended version of The Next Big Thing. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much.